everybody, and welcome to our second webinar on our webinar series highlighting the Texas Exhibit of School Architecture Caudale Class winners. My name is Irene Negaglione, and I am the chair of the Southern Region Foundation. And we're so excited that this year we had the opportunity to do this partnership with the Texas Association of School Administrators and the Texas Association of School Boards. Today, we will be going over Tippit Middle School, which is one of the Caudale class winners, and just a few housekeeping notes. If you have any questions for the panel, please put those in the chat. Carla with A4LE will be manning the chat and passing the questions over to the speakers. So please, as you're going through the presentation, please feel free to pose questions for the panel. The panel today that will be making the presentation on this very exciting project is as follows. First presenter is Mike Hall, Director of Design for Huckabee. Mike has been a school architect for more than 20 years. His whole career has focused on education, and he has designed hundreds of schools across Texas. Mike is the Director of Design at Huckabee and was a lead designer for the Tippit Middle School project. Second presenter is Mike Vermeering, Director of Planning for Huckabee. Mike is an architect and the Director of Planning at Huckabee. He was a project manager for Tippit Middle School and has worked with Georgetown ISD on the planning and design of numerous award-winning projects. Our last speaker is Dr. Fred Brent, Superintendent for Georgetown ISD. Dr. Brent has devoted his career to education. He joined Georgetown ISD in 2014 as the superintendent, having served as superintendent previously in Alvin ISD and Anderson Shire CISD. Dr. Brent has helped transform Georgetown ISD and their vision for education over the past 7 years. This is the third year in a row a Georgetown ISD school has been recognized in the Caudale class, and the second year in a row it has placed among the winners. Wagner Middle School was a finalist in 2018. The Hammerlin Center for Leadership and Learning was a winner in 2019. We're very excited to share this project with you. During the jury process, jurors shared how impressed they were with the transformation for this campus. So I am sure the team will share some of their experiences and how this all came about. Again, the Southern Region Foundation is very thankful that you're here and excited of this partnership. I'm going to pass it on to Mike Hall.
Thank you, Irene. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the presentation. And thank you, Dr. Brent, for being a part of this with us as we go through this. Tippit Middle School is a really exciting project for us. We were very blessed to be a part of the team to work on this. And there are a lot of great things with this project. But what I wanted to do first is kind of go through some of the kind of general facts on the project and also list the project team. The project itself is about 155,000 square feet. About 70,000 square feet of it is addition that we did during the project. We demoed about 40,000 square feet and renovated approximately 55,000 square feet. And through that, the site itself is about 43 acres, and the capacity increased from originally 850 students to 1,000 students through the design, and construction cost was about $25 million. The construction was about 2.5 years, so it was finally completed in 2018. And the project team on this was, of course, the owner is Georgetown ISD. Huckabee is the architect. The general contractor was Lee Lewis Construction. MEP was Estes McClure. Civil is Stigger Bazell out of Georgetown. And then landscape is NDLI. Structural was also in-house with Huckabee. And Crux was technology and security. Roofing was Wary Engineering, and acoustical and AV was BAI. And ADA and food service was Accessology and JMK Food Service. What we'll go over during the presentation and tour, we'll highlight several different things from the 4 categories that we were able to get awards for the design. The first, we'll talk about the main connector through the campus that was the new addition that connected all 5 buildings throughout the campus. And we'll also talk about the collaboration and personalization that was developed through the design in the space. We'll also discuss the campus identity from what it was originally to what we ended up creating with the new process and new design. And also talk about the learning experience and how we were able to to revitalize that with the new vision from the district and Dr. Brandt. From a planning standpoint, we'll touch on the process we went through initially with the district to get feedback on the design and look at adjacencies, and also talk about how the implementation of the learner profile into this new facility and how the design supports that profile. And then the school transformation, we'll talk about the phasing, how we went through a 2.5-year process to get the design to be all under one roof, and also look at the cultural shift through this process. And from there, I'll hand it over to Dr. Brandt to talk about Georgetown and their vision.
You would think we wouldn't have to be told to unmute, right? So anyway, thank you, Mike. My name is Fred Brent, and it is an extreme honor to serve in Georgetown ISD. I really appreciate our Huckabee team and Mike and everyone else involved. Just thank you guys for the journey you've taken with us. So Georgetown ISD, a little bit about us. You can see on that slide there, man, we love our town square. We like to say we're the most beautiful town square in the state of Texas. And we are located just about 25 miles north of Austin, Texas. If you do not know anything about Georgetown, that's where we are. So who we are as a school district, really our vision is to be home of the most inspired students, serve the most empowered leaders. And you can see all of these grounding documents on this slide, and there's a lot of words there. But what I will tell you is with this slide is really the foundation for all of our decision makings in our district, whether it's preparing for opening school with COVID-19 or navigating the winter storm that we had here in Texas, or it is just making good leadership decisions. You can see our learner profile attainment, and you can see who we are as a district, what our vision, mission, and beliefs are, and how that truly does serve as our compass. So here's what I would say about who we are as a district. You can see from the previous slide, it is pretty in Georgetown. We love our town, but it is a growing community with the economic drivers that are coming into the Austin area. We have experienced growth. We're also a very tradition-rich community. We are proud of who we are. The district was born in 1917, and our Hammerland Center for Leadership and Learning is right smack dab in the middle of the first building we ever built. And so we are proud of who we are, where we're from, and we're hopeful for where we're going. And what we hope you'll see is Tippit Middle School is a great reflection of Georgetown, Texas. Tippit Middle School was our first true middle school built in the 1980s, and it was very traditional, very segmented. And I made a comment, it felt like it was, the campus was like Swiss cheese. It was very porous. It was easy access to anywhere on the building you wanted to be from outside of the building. Safety was not an issue at the time. None of those factors were the time. So what I hope you'll see is in transforming this campus, it's much like this document you see in front of you. We wanted to focus on learning spaces that allowed opportunities for creativity and innovation, where we wanted kids to feel safe to explore their learning in multiple learning platforms and environments, where we wanted our kids to have more ownership and to start building a more personalized learning experience, which will help them adapt and persevere. And what I would also say is the communication collaboration pieces of our learner profile. I hope you'll see reflection of that, because that was a driving force for this design. Ultimately, what I would say is about who we are as a learning organization is that we're constantly trying to grow learning spaces that are focusing on the comfort of the learning needs of students. And that has caused us to move away from some of the facility decisions we had made in the past based on the comfort of adults. So our driving question is this focused on the learning needs of kids or the comfort of adults? So you'll see some unique spaces that were specifically intended to focus only on the reason that we're there, which is student learning. So that's who we are in Georgetown. This campus is a great reflection of the journey that our community has been on, going from the old to the new, not letting go of who we are, focusing on what we need to be for the future, and securing the structural future of our kiddos.
And so at the same time that Tippit was being designed, we had just wrapped up design for Wagner Middle School, which was mentioned earlier. Wagner was very much meant to be a facilitator of all those things, the vision, the mission, the beliefs that we just saw. And so there were a lot of new environments infused into that design, like flexible rooms that opened up to each other, teacher planning areas where teachers don't own their classroom. They go to this larger office space and work together to design the day. It was also designed around a central commons area that really infused the type of culture that Georgetown wanted to see. And so with Tippit, we were kind of challenged to bring all of those things that we designed for Wagner, a brand new building, and infuse them into an existing building. Like Dr. Brent said, it was a 1980s building, very porous, segmented. So you had a lot of buildings that simply weren't connected other than an outdoor canopy. And so you can see the difference here, Wagner's classrooms, flexible rooms, as compared to the very traditional Tippit classroom, or the typical conference room that you have, and then a dining hall specifically that was its own building. It worked for dining, but how else can you use those spaces and allow kids to actually use them throughout the day for things other than just eating? So that was kind of our challenge, and man, it was very exciting. I think the word transformation is spot on. It's quite a project to see the kids afterwards in the spaces that you'll see coming up here. So here you see a before image, and that's the front entrance from 1980s. And yeah,
I've forgotten about that. Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's kind of hard to locate that entrance on the left somewhere on the site, right? Just to give you an idea, it's behind one of those trees and it's not facing the street, right? None of the buildings that you see facing the street actually have windows facing them other than the side of a couple of the classroom wings. So, and that the main street obviously is right on that bottom left corner. So you also see from the site, there was not much queuing, just in terms of some practical things like parking and queuing for parents at the end of the day or at the beginning. Lines were backing up onto the street. So those are some things that we had to take into consideration as well. And then this is the after, and you can see the main entrance has been put in the center of the campus. It is facing the street, and I whenever I have to get onto I-35 to drive, I get the chance to drive by this, and I'm proud of it. I know that it looks like a source of pride for the community now. It's a Georgetown school. You can see the logo there in the center of the entrance there. It actually glows at nighttime, and I mean, it's a community school now, so it really was a transformation, not only inside the building, but for the outside in the neighborhood as well.
So as Mike mentioned, there were a lot of things that we did to transform the building. From the site standpoint, the queuing was a big thing that we looked at initially, and how we could add more stacking space to the design. And so we looked at really kind of expanding the parking at the front. You only had about 35 parking spaces at the front, and we increased that to closer to 70 and 330 overall on the site. But just making sure that everything flowed well. One of the other things we also looked at with the design was trying to keep as many of the trees on the site as possible. So the addition and renovation really nestled within the site and didn't look foreign to the site. So we worked really closely with Civil on parking locations for staff, and parking also by the events area, and then the bus drop off in the back, how we could make all that work. One of the things that we also had some opportunities with was the site had quite a bit of fall. So When we look further into the design, you'll see that it's a split level. So there's a lot of grade change that we had to work with. Some of the areas on the design that we focused on, the main entry, of course, has the admin at the front. So you have your security vestibule there. But the main connection we looked at was where the design lab is for the admin, that overlooked the dining. So there was that synergy there that was similar to what we had at Wagner. So you had the students could see the teachers and administrators working together as a team, and it was also a way for them to display that to the students as well. Some of the other things we looked at is that full connection all the way around. So you can see that main circulation spine that connects all the way from the upper right corner where we have life skills and your CTE wing, and it goes through humanities all the way down to the dining and up to fine arts and athletics. So you're able to have your academics on one area and then your athletics and fine arts on the other. And one of the spaces that you'll see on there, which is labeled with a 1, is also the design lab for humanities. And Dr. Brent will talk more about that a little bit later. But what we wanted to make sure of is that once you come into each house, they had full visibility of who was coming and going from a security standpoint. On the second floor, we have that connection from below by the learning stair up to the library space, and that space overlooks the dining and also connects back to the 6th grade house, as well as the CTE, which is all the way up to the upper right. So you'll see that there are 2 design labs there that have that overlook into both of those areas. We've gone through and modified a lot of the spaces where you had movable walls in between classrooms, and also provided spaces for the students to have collaboration, which are the areas between the wings, which you'll see in a few images later. The phasing on this was really critical, and you can see with the image on the lower left, there were 5 separate buildings on the site. It really spread out, and so the key was, how do you phase all of the addition renovation work while the students are still on campus, keeping them safe? And so we sat down with the contractor and with the district and went through and developed a game plan. So the first portion we looked at was removing the existing band hall and the canopies that were at the front. And in that addition, we came back in and with the second phase and added the new fine arts and the admin and library space. And the fine arts included your orchestra, band, and choir, and also your library on the 2nd floor, right over the admin area at the entry there. Phase 2 was going back in and renovating the classroom wings and deleting the CTE building that was on the back behind the new admin area. And then from there, we went in and added the new design labs, which were in the corridor that started to link the campus together. And then the final 5th phase, what we ended up doing was renovating the humanities wing and the 6th grade wing, and then deleting the dining area that was at the front of the campus. So that way it opens up the view of the entire campus all the way through. See here some of the before and after shots, or before shots here were the corridor, and then after where we're able to open up those spaces and create those kind of in-between spaces for the students to collaborate on. This is a view of the commons area before, where you had the overlook from the 2nd floor. We went in and opened this whole area up, brought in new materials. We took all the brick out from the interior and brought in the stone. And that was something we looked at early on, was being able to take a new palette with the stone, the glass, the aluminum composite panel, and how we can bring the outdoor materials in. So you have these moments along the corridor where you get natural light through the building as you go from one end to the other, and really starting to connect all the different levels within the space. So there's a lot of transparency and connectivity all the way through the facility. Here we have a quick, the virtual tour here. So you can see the main entry here. Some of the things that we focused on with the design is that the canopy is more at human scale that pulls you to the entry. You can see to the right there by the entry that we have some glazing there from the admin, so they have full visibility out. And then we played with the massing on the library and the makerspace to really give that hierarchy at the front there.
You know, Mike, you mentioned scale. I think for me, that's one of the most interesting things about this building. When you walk in, we had to work with the split level of the existing building when we were designing all of the new spaces as well. And so some of the levels of your main entrance of the entrance here that you see, like the roof above or the ceiling above, it might be a little bit lower than we may have done for, let's say, Wagner, you know, at the time. But it's all because it kind of had to work with the existing building. And quite frankly, I think it works really well with this because the main entrance is a little bit more condensed, and then it opens up very suddenly to the new commons area and the learning stairs there. So it has a really nice entrance, you know, like you said, human scale. And then you kind of get into this, you know, larger, you know, kind of community type space.
Yeah, we also looked at that bridge that you see when you first come in. Helps frame the view of the dining. So you have that transparency all the way through. There's a lot of borrowed light throughout the space. And one of the things that we were very fortunate with is the front of the building faces to the north. So a lot of natural light coming in, but it's controlled natural light that you don't get the glaring heat from that direction.
You know, I remember also during the planning of this that there was a lot of, you know, from the teachers and the principal and the students too, talk about how do we keep all of that natural, you know, outdoor experience that we get, but also enclose the building and make it safe. And I think a lot of the glazing and you know, strategic placement of it just brings in a ton of natural light and views throughout the whole campus.
You know, Mike, one of the things about that is I feel like in talking about these spaces, we talk about how nothing really happens in isolation about student learning, in the sense that so many things are all connected. And I love the conversations our team had about connectivity. Yeah. And about how the importance of tying learning experiences to other things and other subjects, and the varying degrees of difference which students learn.
First, but like when the full under construction at first, but like when the full building was done, oh, I thought it was really nice compared to what it looked like before. Like the old cafeteria was super hot and like super cramped, and now like the new one is like all big. There's so much space. It looks so much bigger.
I don't think that the old one looked bad. It's just this one looked so much better compared to what it used to be. And it's just so bright. Everything looks just so modern. I really like the looks of the school.
I really like the cafeteria. It's a great place to socialize with your friends, and, you know, obviously great place to eat.
I don't want to talk over the video. Are we good?
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here is this is actually a dining event that's in the design room. So this is not a lunchroom. This is actually a teacher appreciation, something going on. But if you look at that view right there, what we wanted was for learning to be on display at all times. When we decided to create the design spaces for teachers, it was to model adult learning for students, and it also created false observation where there were always adults in sight of wherever students were going to be in the building. There could always be some sort of observation going on. But we want our students, when walking down the hall, to look on your left and see that there's going to be teachers in there planning, designing, and doing, quote unquote, their work. It's a little different on Tippit and some of the different design spaces, but we ask that our teachers spend a proportion of their time each day in these spaces, focusing on the professional learning, whether it's in PLCs or other work. But we want to model learner profile qualities and attributes for our students. And we want to create learning spaces for teachers for those that would facilitate those behaviors, but also allow them to feel safe and have a good, safe place to get their work done. We feel like it's worked really well, and we feel like it's helped our teachers understand how to evolve into this type of work, as in creating the spaces to allow for choice and ownership in your learning. So we feel like it's worked well for us.
For me, this is where we're going into the academic wings here. And for me, the real transformation of this project is right here. You know, I love the new dining area, the commons and the library. But if you see here, looking down these corridors, you know, we use the term double loaded corridors all the time. This is the archetype of that. And the transformation that took place here is really about opening things up. You were talking about connections, Dr. Brent. And you see that we took the lockers out, we infused walls or glass walls so that you can see from the corridor into the classrooms. In some spaces, we have classrooms that open up to the corridor or open up to each other. And all of a sudden, you kind of went from those very static classrooms to this really kinetic campus. When you walk down those corridors, you see learning, you see students engaging with each other, with the furniture, with the teaching tools, and simply with the building itself too, moving those flexible walls and getting comfortable in learning. So the academic wings, that's where the real transformation took place.
Yeah, this area here used to be the library, and we transformed that into the 2 art labs. So they're right in the heart of the classroom area, and they have direct access to the outdoors, but the transparency looking into those spaces, and really a nice way to kind of link the 2 classroom wings there in that area. And here we have one of the multi-purpose spaces with the movable wall there, where it opens up for different types of learning opportunities. A lot of flexibility in these areas, and we purposely looked at these locations in each wing so you had that full flexibility in those areas.
I will just say, when you look at these spaces, this was completely different than what the school had obviously been before. So there was a lot of professional learning that needed to go into this process. And one thing I would encourage districts and architects to think about is when you're creating new learning spaces and you're talking about what the future of learning should look like and what sort of experiences your students need, just try to imagine the work that needs to go in on the front side of this. Preparing teachers to behave and function and utilize the space that supported them, and then helping students adjust in that. There's a ton of professional learning that has to go on in this. There's a ton of voice and understanding of the why in this work. And while we're not there yet, you just need to be prepared for the transition into this space. And it's not going to happen overnight, but what's been fun for me is to watch the culture of Tippit Middle School has completely changed. And I'm convinced this space and the leadership of the campus has been the reason. It's been incredible.
Just looking at the natural light also that comes from, you know, the visibility, putting the glass in there. But all of a sudden that light from the outside, and this is one of those older buildings that has, you know, ample exterior windows, but all that light just kind of floods in and just helps to make this whole wing there, you know, a place that you want to be.
There's some flex spaces over in between the 7th grade and the 8th grade hallways. They're glass, but they're still contained, so you can kind of still see around, but it's also still quiet, so it's easier to think.
I like to go outside in the hallways because we have tables outside, like this one back here. It helps me like think and like get away from the classroom and all the noise sometimes. I find it easier to do schoolwork like that.
Normally I would go out in the hallway. It's a lot quieter for certain classes because some are really quiet, some are a little louder. Overall, it's pretty nice because you get to free your mind and focus on the work. Or sometimes if you just like want the quiet and just want to focus where there's like only you. And I really like this place. It looks amazing and it is amazing.
That dude's awesome. I love that guy. Some of the Huckabee team, that's their favorite interview.
So one of the things with the design is we didn't add classrooms to this besides the 2 life skills rooms up on the corridor. But we were able to increase capacity because the teachers don't own the classrooms. And so they have an office, a workstation in those admin design labs. And so that gives them the ability to utilize the classrooms at 95 to 100% capacity.
Yep, that was another learning experience of making that transition. But it's cool to see that the teaming this affords has been invaluable. It's just fun to watch a building like this come to life. Someone asked us to speak to transparency and safety. We found that we can exit these buildings more quickly. We can isolate students more quickly than we can the traditional old school. We have more exit points. We have more places to move kids to or out of. And the panels, we actually, is it appropriate to say what we did with those panels before we put those moving panels in? We had our SWAT buddies take them to the firing range and shoot them and try to blow them up. Did that, and the SWAT guy got upset because he could not break through that sliding panel that was securing our classrooms. He said, "Y'all got to get these out of here. I can't break into it." I said, "That's the point." So
That's the point.
yeah.
See there, that's the view from the end of the corridor, and then looking down, just leads you all the way back towards the admin area.
In Wagner, the teacher planning rooms kind of serve as a gateway. This is very much the same thing. So if you were, the glass that you were looking at, if you looked behind you, that's looking straight down the classroom corridor. So when you're a student and you're, passing from your classrooms, going down the hall to the commons or the library, you're always passing by a place where there's bound to be a teacher or two teachers or three working together. So I think that's another part of the change in the culture of the building.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher design labs and the teacher workspaces where they don't own a space, that was a whole new thing, and it's been successful, but it does create for great adult presence throughout the space. I just love to see it's really fun. These are great pictures, but it's really fun to see it live and in action as far as students, I think, feel more emotionally safe. They get to have greater ownership of their learning experiences, their maturity levels. It requires the demand of relationships. There's something at stake for a relationship here because some of these campuses, like Wagner, and I think Tippit does it as well, and it is, if you're honoring the behaviors that we appreciate and respect and that you've committed and agreed to, you have more autonomy in where you learn.
Yeah.
And it's not a punitive system. It's called a priv card, I think, at one of our campuses.
Right.
But there's a whole new flow to the culture and the appreciation for space and student choice, voice, and ownership, which speaks to what we're trying to grow. And by the way, if you talk about Tippit Middle School, the work they've been doing on teaching and learning, the growth they're seeing in reading and math this year. Oh, there's Alfonso Longoria. The growth they're seeing in reading and math this year is outstanding. That was the campus principal you just walked by.
Those learning stairs we were looking at, I don't think I've been through that building once where I haven't seen at least one student on there, but usually there's groups of 4 or 5 hanging out, learning.
Yeah, what I loved about this space is this library is amazing. I don't even like to call it a library. It's that thing that people want to call a library, but it's so amazing. And the open to student engagement in that space, you can move that glass wall so you can close off the library if you need to, or you can open it up completely. But once again, it's welcoming to our students. It is a solid experience for the kiddos, but it's just one more place where a kid can go and learn and during some of their flex time. And I think once again, the team did a great job of thinking, what's the experience we want for our students? And then let's create those conditions with this renovation project. And we're thankful for that.
That in terms of parity with Wagner, again, both designs actually stemmed from that same planning process, right? So all of the conversations that you were just talking about, or that approach, what's gonna get students engaged, right? It was the answers that came out of that went into the new building, and it went into this renovation as well. And so these are spaces right here, especially that we're looking at the library and the commons area that, match the brand new building.
So
yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, sorry. The linear wood ceiling that we have here is, I believe it's Rulon, but basically we incorporated that into the design to help with the acoustics in the space. But it also adds that warmth that we've looked for throughout the campus with the polished concrete and the exposed steel.
We love polished concrete in Georgetown, Texas. I will say that. The furniture was really important to the team. That may not be talked about in the architecture design, I guess, but it was important to create the experiences.
Yeah, I think the furniture is just as critical as the movable walls, the movable monitors, just students being able to kind of choose their space, move around.
So one of the mindsets we had to overcome, if you look at this art room, is that how do you take the new learning experiences and the new spaces and bring them to our older buildings that still need to function as school, but so how do we renovate them? And someone asked earlier on the panel was, how in the world, were kids with school in session? This was a long project and school was in session and there were some growing pains in this experience, but it paid off. But we owe it to every kid, regardless of their zip code, to give them the best learning environment we possibly can. And so majority of our bonds have gone to our poorest zip codes in Georgetown, Texas. And I'm thankful for our board and community's commitment to that. But it would have been, some people might not have been as intentional with an older building to make sure that the kids on every aspect of our community, equity was important in those learning spaces and opportunities. So this project did that.
I think throughout the phasing, if I remember right, there were the path, we're at the athletics. This is on the exact opposite side of the campus as the classrooms. And I think there were more than a few changes where we kind of, changed the path to keep the kids safe and get around construction that might have been happening in the middle. Sometimes I think the pathway for them was in front. Sometimes it was in back. But in partnership with the contractor, we always made sure that they were safe.
Here you have the gymnasium, the athletic areas. We just finished those recently. That was the newer phase of the project. So now the entire campus is complete. Some of the other things we also did here, we had some solar tubes throughout the facility in the fine arts area to get natural light into the space. Also in the library, we have a few over the center of the library space. This is the workout part of the new renovation addition where we have an outdoor covered space so the kids can go out and use that outdoor area. Here we just have the students going out to the bus drop-off area. You can see where there's quite a bit of grade change back here with how the canopy steps down and we have to ramp down in that area. But I think that's one of the things that makes this project very unique is how it responds to the site and how the design responds to that.
We might mention that's an elementary school behind the campus as well. So just in terms of construction and the logistics of it, we had to keep that in mind as well.
It was an elementary school.
It was, yes. That's right, at the time, yeah.
There is a new elementary school that has replaced that everyone should love and get that see as well, which shall be nameless for now.
Right.
You can see the extended queuing there instead of just.
And I would say, yeah, Mike, and I would say everything that we started worked as we intended or hoped it would work. And I just, for our Huckabee team that coordinated it, this was a tough project because it took a long time, but it was so worth it. And it's a difference maker for our kids and our staff, but every aspect of the design, the hopes and dreams of each part of that has come to fruition as far as functionality and safety. It's been great.
Hey guys, I think it's a great time, this is Jennifer, to address some of the questions that people asked in here. So let me just read off a few of these and we can go back in the video if you feel like we need to. Fred, you did address a little bit about the security and openness, but there were several questions on that. So did you have any concern from the community or parents about the sort of safety and security of the school?
Most definitely. That we knew that was going to be something we had just to walk through with them. We have a great partnership with Georgetown Police Department, and we worked through all of our safety training and planning with them. We went through the process of explaining our safety protocols to parents. We really did actually take some of those movable wall panels to a police station, and the SWAT team guys tried to smash them with their hammers, and they actually shot them and tried to blow through it. And it took twice the charge that it would take for a CMU brick to make an indentation in the glass of the panels that we have, movable panels. So that was when all the terrible shootings had occurred. So we knew that safety, visibility, transparency was going to be an issue for families and for staff. And there were some growing pains through that. One of the things we talked about was the importance of the experience we're trying to create for our kids. And to what degree do you design a school around, cinder blocks and jails? I mean, it's a tough balance to work through. So you try to be as safe as you can within reason. So secure entry vestibules, rolling down gates to lock down learning spaces, solid plans on evacuating the building. In every school we've designed that has flexible learning spaces, Huckabee has been great about talking about alternative escape routes, if you will, with stairways, places, strategic locations to exit the learning spaces. And what we learned is we can clear out a new, more flexible middle school, lock it down, and get kids to a safe place quicker than we can our traditional schools.
Thanks, Fred.
But it's a community process. It's not easy, but you do it.
Mike Hall, we got two mics here. We had lots of questions about the materials. So this one says, what type of flooring is the primary color design flooring in the corridors with the glare?
Okay, so the flooring in most of the new edition is polished concrete. Back in the classroom areas, we went back with BCT, and just because of some of the uneven surfaces there and keeping that. But yeah, we have polished concrete in the corridors, and then we also, have carpet in a few select areas, but most of it's polished concrete.
And then the name of the wood material on the ceiling, can you repeat that?
So the linear wood system we used, I believe, was Rulon. And so it's their linear system. It's spelled RULON. And if you go to their website, it's one of their more basic systems, but basically it's basically a wood plank that's about 6 inches wide and has about a 1 inch gap in between each plank. And it has a felt where it helps absorb sound. But we looked at that. We used that on Wagner to help soften the space, and it was very successful. And it also helped us in how we can see a lot of conduit up in the deck area. So
yeah, we were talking, I don't know if this helps, and maybe it doesn't. Mike, tell me to shut up if I need to, but when we were looking at the feel of the space, we were concerned that it could get too cold and too sterile because you polish concrete, a lot of metal. We want to have an industrial feel to it, but so we started talking about where can we gain some wood accents, and so I was requesting wood accents for aesthetics, and they found other reasons to include it that he just said. But it really did meet what we were hoping for, because if you're not careful, these places can feel sterile really quickly. So I appreciated the attention to finishes and the products they chose.
we have a couple questions about the teacher design labs. So two, number one, was there pushback from the teachers about not having classrooms? And then number two, how do they handle teacher storage?
We tell them you're not allowed to bring stuff we don't want in our schools. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's a joke. So, guys, here's the thing. It's changed, right? It's changed. So the teacher design labs, I want to make sure we have two different things. There's a design space in front of the commons where teachers go to for their professional learning on a regular basis. The space that you see, if you look at the picture on the left under the new middle school, because maybe my screen's blocked here. Let's look at Tippit since we're talking about Tippit. Yes, this right here, this is the teacher space at Tippit Middle School. This is more like a workstation place for them. It's not a design lab. This is where they go really to do work. That's the most common function of that. They have workspaces behind, you saw in the video, behind that wall there. And they do have meetings there. They do different things there, but they end up at Tippit, they'll spend more time in one classroom than another. But when opening the new school, it was important to talk about the purpose of the school and why and what teaching and working here is going to look like, and then started building the schedule around that. So yes, you're going to get some pushback. Some people will choose to find a new future in a different space. But all in all, it's about the culture you're building and the student experience that demands the need for working in this way. So when you have a lot of flexible classrooms and you focus on student experience, why would you confine that learning opportunity to just one set space? But we did have some pushback, but you got to love them through that, and you have to ask them a lot of questions. You have to bring them along carefully, explain the why, and create safety in experimenting with this kind of work.
Dr. Brent, would you say that with the teachers working together, it just enhances the sense of community throughout the campus?
Well, yeah. When you talk to school districts who use teaming at the middle school level really well, they get this, right? The difference is for a place, like Tippit is, there are some more traditional classrooms in Tippit, so it's easy for teachers to stay in there for a while. But when we ordered furniture, you talk about teacher storage. Well, we created storage opportunities for them. They have some they have some locker storage space. They also have storage space in that lab, but in some of the classrooms, you have some moving storage opportunities. So we solved all those questions, or answered all those questions through furniture. It just had to rethink what furniture looked like. But the connectivity of teachers working together is huge. And so it's difficult to live in isolation at Tippit Middle School. And when you're not living in isolation and you're interacting with others, and if you have shared beliefs and agreed upon purpose and vision and how we're going to treat each other, your culture is going to get better.
Fred, obviously COVID brought some challenges with how you use the space, but the school had a chance to be open pre-COVID. So when it was open then, how much were people using those movable walls?
Initially, some things were more separate, more traditional. And as the year's gone on and as we've adjusted to having school with COVID, things have opened up more. But with all of our flexible spaces, concerned about close contact tracing, although we were very intentional. So guys, I don't know about you, but in Georgetown, Texas, we've been at about 74% in-person learning on campus all year. At our middle schools, I think are over 80% of in-person learners on campus, are right in that ballpark range. So we never stopped having school. We started in, we had the 3-week delay, and then boom, in September, we're off and running. All of our athletic teams participated in marching bands. We did our fine arts presentation. We just were very intentional about face masks, safety protocols. So the walls the walls went up a little bit, but now they've been opening back up and students are able to move around a little more in the building. But it did change the experience to a certain degree, but that's what's so awesome about the space. You make the learning platform what you need it to be for that time and occasion. And so we just put more walls up and kids blocked off a little more for close contact tracing. And as things got better, we opened up more. I mean, why build a building that only gives you one learning platform for 40 years? I don't know. It's crazy.
We have a couple more questions, but I'm going to let you guys, we have about 5 minutes left on the slide part of the presentation and a short video to share. So I'm going to let you guys continue on. And then for our attendees, we can address more questions at the end.
All right.
It's you, Mike and Mike.
So the slide here, we're on the left, we're showing the images of Wagner Middle School, which is the first project we worked on with the new concepts and how they compare to Tippit. And yes, there's a little bit of difference between them, but really the main concepts are there. You have that transparency at the design labs. The dining spaces have that connectivity to the corridor and to the library, as well as to the admin design lab. So there you have that visibility there. And a lot of the materials are very similar as well. We brought in the exterior materials to the interior. We use graphics to kind of highlight some of the features around the city of Georgetown. And just try to keep as much of continuity across all the middle schools as we could between the two campuses.
So Tippit's a very special place. One of the things that I've really learned about Tippit is there's a lot of tradition here. It is the oldest middle school in Georgetown. So the renovations that happened over the last 3 years have really added to that special feel to Tippit. We have gone from a campus that has been spread out with different buildings to one big enclosed building. We have a lot of new flexible learning spaces that allow students and teachers to be creative and to have students and teachers work collaboratively with each other.
The kids have been really adaptable. They're very happy when they're out in these new flexible spaces working. And part of my job is that I get to be out and about and walk around and see. And the kids really are working. They do take breaks, stop and talk and visit a little bit, but they'll get right back down to work.
All the windows and all the natural light that comes into the building, you can really tell that students really enjoy that. It opens up their creativity, it opens up their energy level, their desire to collaborate and work with others.
I really like the third floor flex spaces that close off into smaller little groupings. I like to sit up there and work as I'm able and be able to watch kids here and there. Another favorite spot is on the 4th floor over by the STEM offices. From that little corner of the railing, I can see all of the levels of the building and just watch the kids as they move about the day.
One of the really cool things about the setup that we have here at Tippit is that it's a little easier for us to come up with ways to engage students because we're not locked in these 4 walls or this box.
Our staff love these kids. That's what they're here for. Above all else, they are here to love these kids and to support them as they learn and grow. This is only the 2nd school I've ever worked at in 21 years in education. This is home. It's a family that really loves and cares about kids and wants them to grow and just be the best kid they can be.
I had teachers and administrators impact me. So what gets me up every morning is that I want to impact kids the way I was impacted. Right there with that is setting high expectations for them. And so I think it's both. I think you gotta love kids and I think you gotta have high expectations. Every morning when I drive up and I see that Titan head, I'm extremely proud to be the principal here.
All right.
Were there more questions that we needed to address?
Yes, we have a couple more. One of them asked, what are the writable walls? Is it paint or some other product?
Wow.
So those are wall talkers.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, I was looking at you. I thought you were going to chime in there, but
No,
it's a roll-on material.
It's a roll-on material. Yeah, it's not painted on. A lot of that was because of the smell of the paint and all that. So that's it's the wall talker system.
Yeah. Plus it's a pretty good material in terms of versus paint. I think in terms of the ghosting, I think we'd experience that a little bit. So it's another one of the reasons we went with that.
Great. So the next question is about the houses. So it says, are the houses each one grade? If yes, was there any thinking about the possibility that each house might serve multiple grades, so students would remain in the same community during their years in school, sort of schools within a school.
So go ahead, you guys start, and I'll add.
Well, I was just going to say at this middle school, as well as at Wagner, they were broken up into 6th grade, and then there was a humanities wing and a STEM wing. And I'll let Dr. Brent explain a little more.
Yeah, so for that very thing, we felt like at the 6th grade experience at this point in time in our journey, we wanted to let the 6th graders be 6th graders with 6th graders. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on there with our kiddos. The 7th and 8th grade, the STEM and humanities, we wanted 7th and 8th graders because you see students start moving at multiple levels at that time. So we blended them by combining 7th and 8th grade through STEM and humanities. And that just has worked well for our team. And to get much deeper than that, you would need a campus principal or a teacher. But it's worked well for us.
Next question is, for the classrooms that have glass walls to the corridor, are there any areas within the classrooms that students can hide in case of an intruder?
I don't know that there are. We have lockdown gates. We have other security measures. But no, we did not build the school based on that one thing. And that, while that's a consideration for some of our facilities, as far as where there's glass, do we go all the way down to the floor? Maybe not. I know we've altered some of that since some of the recent years, that things that happened a couple of years ago. We've changed some of our approaches through some experiences, but I don't recall if they have a specific place to hide, or if it is the fact that we get out of the building and we lock the place down through the roll down gates and other security measures. We do have SRO officers on all middle schools all day. So that's one of our measures as well.
And last question I have is, what is the material on the stage in the cafeteria?
I believe the material on the stage is VCT. Using a black VCT for that.
Any more questions from our attendees? We'll stick around here for a few minutes, but Mike, and Fred, would you guys like to say any closing remarks?
For me, just thankful to have the opportunity to work with Georgetown, with Dr. Brent on these projects. Everyone is a new adventure, new experience. We'll get to do some really exciting things. And so it's just a pleasure to work with him and with the district.
I second that. And for Tippit, specifically, this was a project that really sparked my love for transformation projects, right? I mean, it's not just renovations anymore for me. It's how do we transform these buildings and give the kids, an environment that they're just going to want to come to every morning and just get engaged in learning. So very grateful to be working with Dr. Brent and Georgetown.
Yeah, I would always say if the people in this panel are architects and other people who work with school districts, man, you need to know your district's why. You need to understand their vision. You need to know what they're about and who they are. You learn to speak their language and help bring their hopes and dreams to life. That's exactly what Huckabee has done. I couldn't imagine working with anyone else. So.
Okay. That's all, folks. Thank you very much. Like I said, we'll hang around for about 5 minutes in case there's any questions, or if you want to unmute yourself and show your face, and we can chat for a few minutes. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you, Jennifer.